What's a real-life jump scare that happens in normal day-to-day life? When I was working retail, I got so used to turning a corner and finding a customer just standing there that my startled response for a long time was, "Oh hi, can I help you?" I went to a haunted house and asked a clown that jumped out at me if he needed assistance. Then I realized WHST I did, apologized and said, "Oh, I work retail," and booked it to the next scare in shame. I could hear him laughing at me as I power walked away. I can safely assure you there is nothing more humiliating than a spooky clown laughing at you. I went into a kitty haunted house years ago. It was just people jumping out and being silly. It was fun. At the end I was at the very back of the group and about 3 people snuck up behind me and screamed. Me? I jumped around, guard up, ready to fight. They all put their hands up and backed away slowly. It was hilarious. I accidentally scared the scarers. My reaction even now when I watch scary movies is guard up. My friends laugh their asses off. In Canada, when a child has been abducted in your area, you get an Amber Alert message on your phone. The system uses the most extreme notification level, which is a loud blaring noise that makes it seem like you're under attack. If it happens at night, you're gonna jolt awake. If it happens during the day, everyone's phones go off at once and it's like the alarm is echoing. It was New Year's night. My wife was homesick and we were supposed to all go to the neighbors for a New Year's party, so told me to go enjoy myself and she wanted to lay in bed. Well, New Year's hit and I've been texting with her all night, so I asked her, "Hey, do you want to try anal for New Year's?" More as a joke but somewhat serious. So I screened it, not knowing it actually went to her mom instead. I didn't realize until she replied and just said, "I hope this is for insert wife's name." I was embarrassed. At the call center I worked at in the 90s, we used NetSend from the command line to send messages to each other or to the whole call center. My best friend and I had been talking about one of our coworkers who frequently was braless and often had very visible and prominent nipples. After one of these times I said to my friend, "What did you call it when Stacy was pointy?" "Nippleific," and after I hit enter I heard it popping up on all the terminals around me. I had chosen the wrong NetSend from the run history. A few minutes later my friend comes over to where I'm cowering in my cubicle and she whispered it was breastacular. My partner does this, gets me sometimes multiple times a day, like, they make no noise no matter what. Hard floor, no noise. Gets up out of a chair, no noise. Just fucking silent. Smashed a glass a couple days ago because I was getting wine out of the cupboard, turned round and there they fucking are. Shrieked a bit and dropped the glass. They were gaming at their desk 2 fucking seconds ago. How the fuck did they get right behind me in the kitchen that fast with no noise? They swear up and down they don't do it on purpose. I claim they're lying because it happens almost every day and surely they must know by now. I sometimes purposely use my quiet walking to walk up behind one of my coworkers and just stand in his cubicle until he notices me. I've gotten up to 7 minutes without him realizing I was there. I got bored though, which is why that number isn't higher. I get a small amount of pleasure from being able to silently walk up behind someone and scare them a little. So I had just pulled my pizza out of the oven for some tasty lunch before work that day. Pulled off the mitts and went to get a knife. That's when I saw it, a big fat junibug sitting on the stove. Well, at a glance, I couldn't tell what it was startled, and moved my pizza out of the way, while it was still on the pan, without the oven mitts on. 010 would not recommend. I work at a preschool. Just this morning I saw a cone on the top landing of the slide, jungle gym apparatus and lifted it up to see if it was covering a hole or something. Nope, it was covering a dead mouse. I shrieked and told the kids I almost fell in a really big hole and we can't use the playground, and seriously, why didn't anyone tell me about that? Oh my god, this exact thing almost happened to me the other day. I was taking an exit to get off the highway. and was going to turn left at the next light, so I stayed in my left lane with the semi in the rightmost lane. But apparently they were doing construction in the leftmost lane and I didn't realize it until my lane started ending, and as I was starting to merge to the middle lane, the semi also tried to merge into that lane. I had to honk to get his attention and thankfully he let me through, but I was terrified. I don't really recognize people outside of the context I normally interact with them. One time I was at the store and I see this woman walking straight towards me. She's clearly not walking just in my general direction, but directly to me. I'm her target. Start to panic. She gets closer and closer. I can see her face clearly. Her eyes are locking on. Turn around and start to flee. Hear her call my name. I recognize that voice. Can't quite put my finger on where I heard it though. Hesitate, then turn around, stare for a few seconds. It's Sarah, who I've seen every single day at work for the past 8 years. Relaxing in front of the TV and you spot something in the corner of your eye. It's one of those giant spiders running across your floor like a demon. Now you gotta jump up on your couch and figure out some way to get it out of your house before it manages to compromise your position and end your life. Especially deadly in September. We have several animals including 5 cats. One of them has this habit/ability/interest/whatever of stealthing you at any time and then just finding a platform to stare at you from. At any moment, in any room you can just turn around and he'll be there, 3 inches from your face staring into you. He's a total sweetheart, but man, it's really disturbing. I wonder about him. When driving to work there are a bunch of super narrow roads with lots of cars parked on both sides of the road. There are no stop signs, so crossing the road gives me anxiety every morning. Cars will fly by super faster and it's like I almost get hit every other morning. I need to stop going down that road, but it saves me 5 minutes, so I risk it with a biscuit. Injecting the diabetes drug Trulicity. The needle is automated to extend on the press of the button. Inject the drug, then retract back in for disposal. However, the button is always a little dodgy about the amount of pressure it takes. The needle hurts like hell when it slams home, and the slow press of the liquid into tissue before the sudden retraction is insult to injury. Even trying to ice the area beforehand doesn't help. Of course this doesn't happen anymore. But I used to listen to cassettes every night when falling asleep as a kid. There was the inevitable dead space after the last track, and then you could hear a slight change in sound when the tape reel reached the leading, ending part. It was a different material. Then the tape would automatically stop, which was jarring as I was always drifting off by that time. There's a canning jar with a lid in my office where I work. Every day, when it gets hot enough in the room, the lid goes ping and makes me jump. It happens literally every day. I don't know why I haven't just removed it from the room yet. Maybe it's just part of my daily routine at this point. Okay, so this is a slightly embarrassing story from when I was in grade 7. A friend of mine was joking around, saying how completely immune to jump scares he was. I'm the type to call people on their bullshit. So I told him that he was full of it and that he'd have to prove it for me to believe it. By now, the rest of our friend group was watching this play out, and he wasn't about to step down from a challenge. So he pulled out his phone and said that I'd have to watch a 5 Nights at Freddy's video with him for it to count. I was feeling cocky, so I agreed, saying that I wasn't going to even flinch. Now, we're about 5 or 6 minutes into the video. I'm feeling the anxiety of being scared and I know that I was going to jump. I can feel his energy too, and we both were anxiously waiting for the moment where one of the animatronics would jump up and scare us. In the video, there was a moment of silence and relief flooded the both of us. Maybe the tension in the recording was a false alarm. Then, out of nowhere, one of the animatronics leapt up at the screen, and both my friend and I screamed and flung ourselves backwards, away from the phone. It was any old scream too. It was sharp and high, one you don't do for fun. I don't think I've suffered a worse jump scare. Even writing about it now I get shivers, and it was years ago. My animals regularly scare the absolute shit out of me. I have a Schnauzer Beagle mix, so he makes some oddly human noises. When I am home alone and I hear it from the back door, it still scares me. Don't think he'll ever get used to it. My recently passed cat was big boy and his footsteps really sounded like a human's footsteps. Also never got used to that and would regularly get very startled thinking someone was walking around in the middle of the night. You don't. Jump scares are things that work in movies, where you can show someone a visual representation of something scary, or building it up with music until the moment happens where something falls off a shelf, startling the person. Still a jump scare even though there's nothing. In a book you don't have music or visuals, so you'll have to approach it differently. When writing you're going to need to build up the anxiety and the dread the character feels, so that the reader can feel that. You can't just throw in a jump scare like "and then the monster came out, boo," because that would feel cheap and will raise eyebrows in a WTF way. Instead, you'll have to stretch it. Whereas in a movie you're getting a jump scare from a monster, in a book you'll have to describe the environment, the atmosphere and all that, so that people will start to feel the tension that the scene requires. An attack from a monster will require you to describe how your character feels and reacts to it. But because writing, and reading, that will take longer than the whole second in a movie, you're going to need to do that with a vivid description. You don't even need to describe the monster, merely the attack itself. The whole idea of being attacked by something you don't see or even when you can see it is chilling enough. So you need to work on that part. The part where emotions like dread, panic, hopelessness play a role. You need to make your readers believe that what the character experiences is scary and that they can imagine that really happening. That is how a book gets you scared. My sister got my husband and I some balloons for our birthdays, a couple days apart, so we celebrate together, and I put them in our bedroom so our toddler doesn't destroy them and ingest helium, but the ceiling fan in the room blows them around. Even thought they're weighted in the bottom, and every time I opened the door they looked like people and it scared the poop out of me. My apartment's doorbell. It works well. In fact, the button is so sensitive sometimes it goes off a little if someone rings one of the adjacent buttons. And the bell is super loud and gives me a goddamn heart attack because my work setup is in the living room. My partner often doesn't even hear it because he works in his bedroom. What's annoying as fuck though, is that sometimes people ring my apartment just because they need to get into the building, and have no actual business with me. Sometimes it's a neighbor who's locked out, or one of those scammers claiming to be with Eversource, and they either mash the panel figuring someone will let them in, or try me first because my unit is first on the list. Every freaking time I see a spider, especially the huge ones around in the UK now as it's spider mating season, I am utterly terrified of spiders, so if I walk in a room, turn on a light and one of the huge ones is on the wall, or it runs out, I literally almost die of fright. It actually makes me feel sick and I get fear tingles in my hands. On my way to college there's an underpass on the side of the road. The stairs up, down are very closed off so you can't see anything on your sides. And every time I take the stairs someone pops out from said sides and I visibly jump, to their amusement. I know each time I take those damn stairs that this is gonna happen, but, just as with regular jump scares, it still manages to make me jump, however predictable it is. So my vote goes to closed off stairs where you can only see what's in front of you. My neighbor has 2 pit bulls that I always forget about until I'm mowing along the fence between our yards. I always jump out of my skin when I see these 2 brown shapes racing toward me barking like crazy. Yesterday I realized they're also jumping at the fence as I go by because I felt the actual breath of one of them on my arm. Had to come to the office on a Saturday for a meeting. Whole building was empty except for me and 2 of my bosses. Front door was locked so I had to take the stairs in the parking garage to the first floor, walk down the hallway, and take the elevator. The building was dead silent on the first floor, as expected. When I turned the corner to the elevator, my boss stepped out and said good morning. I literally jumped back and flung my phone 10 feet away. Turned out he was doing the same thing and was just waiting for the elevator. My desk is placed such that people can come into my work area and stay just outside of my field of vision. There is also a fair amount of white noise thanks to that, which does a fine job of covering the sound of footsteps. In the before times, there were a few people between me and any interloper who were perfectly positioned to spot people, but thanks to COVID, most days I'm in the office, I'm in the room alone, all of which is to say that the number of ninja attack in progress moments have risen precipitously in the last few years. Every single time my very quiet dog manages to sneak up on me. She's an Akita, so has very cat-like paws and makes basically no noise, so when I'm in the kitchen or just walking around my home I can turn around and boom, she's just there when I thought she was napping in the other room. I had a couch delivered and for a little while it was just hanging out, on its side, in my entryway hallway. On its side, it's probably 6-ish feet tall, and in my shadowy hallway that's close enough to looking like a large person that I startled myself half a dozen times not remembering it was there. I have an elevated startle response, thanks PTSD. Everything is a freaking jump scare. Okay. That's overly dramatic, but basically things that would normally startle a person make me jump and sometimes shriek. It's especially bad if I'm concentrating on something and someone comes out of nowhere to talk to me. It's incredibly annoying for everyone involved, although I did once impress my boss over knowing the correct terminology for why I jumped and shrieked if she popped into my office when I was concentrating on something. You're 30,000 feet up and the plane hits an air pocket and drops 100 feet. You'd think you were going down the entire 30,000 feet. It sure feels that way. But, nah, you still have 29,900 feet to go, so you get the faw's attention and see if you can get a small bottle of gin to settle down with. If you have social anxiety or rent your house, apartment, the doorbell ringing or your neighbor knocking. One time our landlord let themselves in without warning while I was sleeping and the sound of the door opening was an instant heart attack. When I walk to work, there's a house that has their dog on a leash sometimes in the front yard. I'm coming around the corner, headphones in and their vehicle is usually there blocking the view and all of a sudden the dog is like 2 feet away from me barking. Scares me every damn time. Alarm clock. Personally speaking, the goddamn monthly maintenance check of the tornado warning siren. The siren is the exact same as the one used for indirect fire attacks on all bases/FOBs and combat zones. Yeah, dickhead city manager. Maybe let's not use something that sets off the hundreds of thousands of veterans with PTSD. Spy. I own a stormtrooper costume that I wear for charity events. I store it in a big bin. During stretches that it's not in use or for repair, I keep him on a mannequin in the garage, well dressed and in the proper spot. This isn't scary. But in the transition times when the Slender Man mannequin is undressed and standing in the center of the garage, it's a guaranteed jump every time we open the door to the garage. At my work, somebody opening the door you're about to open from the other side. Many of the teachers have lanyards for their keys, so they put their face down near the door to open it. Gives a good jump scare now even when their face isn't in danger of being bonked. Fucking smoke alarms going off to tell you to change the batteries. Every time, this scares the shit out of me because it's such a sudden, loud noise that makes you panic and think there's a real fire and then you realize it's just the battery low alert. I know these things are supposed to save lives, but Jesus. I don't know if it was just a thing at my schools, or if it's more common, but in elementary, middle and high school, it was always a joke to randomly pop a bag of chips inside the cafeteria. Every time we ate in the cafeteria, without fail, someone would do it and make everyone jump in their seats, and every time without fail, some girl, or more than one, would also scream, like that really over-the-top scream that people do when they just want attention. I never thought it was funny. Lol, I hate being startled by sudden loud noises. When I was a teenager I did a paper round in the mornings. I delivered a person's paper who kept tracing pigeons. There was only one door to his house that was around the back garden where the pigeons were kept. Every fucking morning I would walk round to the side of his house and about 100 pigeons would all rise up from the grass at the same time and frighten the shit out of me. The noise of all those startled pigeons' wings slapping together is sharp and loud, so my answer is if you jump scare pigeons you will be jump scared back.